I started when I was born. My mom and dad had had no children for 17 years, and here mom becomes pregnant at age 39. That's late. Going to deliver at age 40 in 1940. So I'm 80 years old, and when mom in the hospital for 8 days, cesarean section, and the doctor said, finally, if it's a boy, I'll give you a train. And that train is right up here on the top shelf, and it still runs as good as it did the day that I got it. And then as I was growing up, Dad, who was a woodshop teacher, was good at making things. And he would set up this layout, 4 trains, let's say Christmas time and just a little bit afterwards. Well, that's good for Christmas time, but what about for Paul to play when I was maybe just 12 or 13 years old? And so he said, yes, let's you and I build. And the mountain layout that is part of the home layout now. But first had to buy this locomotive, had to buy it in a local Milwaukee hobby shop, and $25. Now that was 1953. I also then bought a big transformer, the biggest one, and that was another $25. And that continued to build the hobby and allowed me to set up track on the floor in the living room, or actually all around the house in the inside, but there was a layout downstairs. This was the first engine I bought, and it certainly isn't the last. I'm just going to put it over here away, and then I just continued building. So I was a teacher for 35, 40 years, and 8th graders got a kick out of me talking about the train and sharing it with them, that hobby, but also to notice different things that didn't matter to other people. And I would show them how that matters to me, because this or this item I can put together and put into part of my scenery. The train itself, that has to be somewhat in scale to the houses, the people, or anything else that you would have on your layout. Each of these shows a different size, and here's the little locomotive and a car. Here's a different gauge or size, and this is according to a scale. This is a very popular HO, and HO stands for half of O gauge. O gauge is a big garden railroad. HO gauge is the size that I'm running, and it would be 1 inch to 48 inches, like the cars that are right below it here. S gauge would be almost the same here as O gauge in terms of size. One of the scenes would be the mountain scene in N gauge, with some of the stores, but some of the other mining buildings and pieces of equipment. But again, this would be in N gauge, in the idea I am stretching your eye to make it look a long distance from the main part of the layout. The yellow aspen trees that are right ahead of it lead to a part which is a factory. The maroon colored building is actually HO gauge. and that building has the water towers next to it that are all in scale with the building. The engine that is parked to the other side of it is actually way out of scale and too big for those buildings. Oh, the little air balloon is just a novelty. My home layout here has been in preparation or continual construction. You never say that it's finished because there's always something to be added to the scenery, and added by way of old salt cartons painted up that can serve as oil storage, mailing tubes that could be painted and lettered for a particular factory, trees that are growing in our backyard. Those are plants that you just pick and then spray it with some hairspray, which of course I know all about hairspray, and then put some green or some colors and add to the scenery itself. There is ceiling tile here, there's plaster of Paris here, there are extra ties added underneath the track, there's parakeet gravel or kitty litter actually to serve as the ballast to hold the track in place. And then of course, as you work out into the wall itself, the wall took some time for me to get feeling safe enough to actually try building or painting the wall. The various colors would signify that this then is a display modeling autumn, and I call it 1957 because I graduated in 1957. So it's fall, and it's all of those colors that are added. Then some of the buildings and the colors of some of the cars, different accessories, lights, street lights or spotlights, all of that can add to the construction of your layout, whatever you would like to have on it. So let's take a little tour of some of the special little scenes on my first part of this layout. If you'll follow me, right over here you've got the farm set. And the farm set is made up of the different animals, cows. Yes, we've got some horses. There's of course the farmer carrying some water to the dog, a couple of milk cans, and you maybe can't see behind all of the buildings in here, but you've got the ladies dealing with the chickens. I believe the lady of the house just received something here by way of the delivery man, and I'll just move that delivery truck out of the way for the moment. And the man is just returning, going to get back into his truck. So you make a scene, and you make the scene 1 square foot at a time. You don't make this entire layout all at once, but you just look at 1 square foot, and then you set different little things to add to the scenery, whether it be signs or whether it be perhaps trees or bushes, or if it is the fall season and some of the tree is losing the leaves, let it be. You don't have to dust that. Ladies, you don't have to dust that. Going up into the mountainside, we've got a roadway that takes us up into the mountain. Oh, there's been a crash there. But further up the mountain you have some, let's call them cabins or hunting lodges. And it looks like somebody even brought up a fancy little Volkswagen convertible for their last run up into the mountains in the fall. There's a beacon light there, and that of course gives some direction to any airplanes flying or lookout. There's a higher mountain in that area. Again, to your own liking, you set up a little village if you wish, include a church. Across from the church is a little park. There's a little gazebo, a man sitting in here reading a newspaper, a kid's slide. It doesn't have to be all that fancy. Now, one of the things that should be in every park, and certainly is in mine, is a little trash container. Now, I painted the outside of this to look like a trash can, a silver trash can. You'll notice inside it's the green, but how did I get that? And if you'll follow me here, it was on a battery post. When you buy a big battery in a hardware store, this will be on one of the battery posts so that it doesn't short out in transit. When you put the battery in your flashlights, you take this and probably throw it away. Not according to Paul. Paul finds another use for it, and there has to be a park ready for it. Some of the things here closer are iodized salt cartons that you'd buy at a store, and you'd paint up. I'm just showing you that it's the iodized container. You would throw it away. I would put it in as part of the scene. Didn't cost you anything, and that's part of the hobby as well. You don't have to spend huge bucks on all of your equipment or scenery. Some of the equipment will, but the scenery you make from a lot of things around the house, and to each their own taste. In any hobby, you need support from your loved one. My wife, Jean, has been a support all through the years, even to the point of making ceramic pieces and then painting them, but also doing a needle point of a nice locomotive and the little depot alongside of it, the American flag, and the whole works. Hallmark Christmas ornaments all the way back to 1984. Some of them are in other places around the house, and these represent various trains put out by the Lionel Corporation. Different engines and figures. Different cars for different kinds of product. Cheese, here's oil, big castings going to a factory, and the little caboose.
He's collected these all by himself, although I do tend to encourage him to buy things when we go into a store, usually something that kids would be interested in, and when I was 13, I was in a train crash. And then when I was in high school, I went to Milwaukee and we got stuck in the snow. So I wasn't too thrilled about trains. I did live maybe 3 blocks from the track at Portage. But other than that, so when I met Paul and found out he was a train enthusiast, I thought, wow, I never realized there'd be a connection that way. So the only thing I've really done was in the early days when Paul would set up a train display at a show, then I made the ceramic buildings that we could use with them. They're not the scale for his size trains, but it was a nice display. This is the farm one, which is actually one of the displays we set up.
So to the pure collector, you have to look for a different reward, if you will, than having various fancy items, high-priced items, if you will, in a box. I don't get excited about that. Maybe some fellas or gals do. To the future collector, I would just simply say, always keep a little dream in your heart of what will the next item be that you're going to be looking for or buying.